security. Let's discuss about the security, guys. Very important topic, very important topic. So no need to break your heads and all. It's very simple topic. Okay, try to understand clearly. I can explain security in 3 hours. I can explain security in 10 minutes, but both the sessions are available. I'll first explain the security, the whole security. Okay, today and tomorrow also I'll cover. At the end of the security, straightforward, like a crash course kind of thing, how to give access to database. Generally in security, what we will do, we'll create some logins, different types of logins we'll create. We'll give access to other team members or other particular application related team members and all, will give access to them. Developers and all will give access. We'll remove the access. Okay, we'll revoke the access, grant the access, we'll revoke the access. And how to give access on a specific database, how to give access for a specific permission, how to give access on a specific object like database. These things and all will be covered during the security discussion, guys. In the security discussion, we'll cover all these things, but try to concentrate, try to understand the process. I told you na, if you don't understand, just try to concentrate the 10-minute session also, that will be fine. Okay, but try to understand the concept, guys. How security will work in the SQL server. How security will work in the SQL server. So during installation we discussed about authentication. During installation we discussed about authentication. By that time I told you, I skipped that point, authentication, leave it. So we are going to discuss this authentication during the security and all we discussed it, right? So we'll discuss now. You should be aware of some of the terminologies: authentication and authorization. Authorization, principal, securable, login, user. You should know the differences between these things, guys. Main important terminologies. Authentication and authorization. What is this authentication and authorization, guys? First we'll discuss about the authorization. So what is authorization? Having access on some resources is called authorization. Having access on some resources is called authorization. For example, you are working in one company, or you went to some shopping mall. There you can see on the doors, you can see one nameplate called authorized entry only. What is the meaning of that board, guys? Authorized entry only. What is the meaning of that board? Imagine in the shopping mall we have a power room. The power room is going to supply power for the whole shopping mall. There on the board you can see authorized entry only. What is the meaning of that particular board?
Only specific people can access it.
Not all people, right? Only specific people, the electricians or some other people. Those who are having access to access that room, they only will access that room, guys. That is called authorization. You are an authorized person to access that resource. What is the resource here? The room, power room. Who is going to access? Electrician. Electrician is going to access the power room. So electrician is the user, he is going to access the power room. Power room is the resource here, right? The same example, if you go to any company, you can see server rooms, guys. Server rooms you can see. There also you can see authorized entry only. Not everyone can access that room. Only authorized people can access that room. So in case if it is a server room and all, it will be more secured, right? Right, it will be more secured. So how to open the server room door? How you will open generally? Right? Either biometric will be there, or face recognition will be there, or ID card flash will be there. Different authentication methods will be there, right? That is called authentication. Authentication means the process of verifying username and password. Process of verifying username and password. For example, having access to Gmail is called authorization. While accessing Gmail, what you will do?
We need to authenticate ourselves.
Right, you have to give your username and password, right? It is going to authenticate whether the same user is accessing our Gmail or not. Authorization means having access on some resources is called authorization. Authentication means process of verifying the username and password. Simply, process of verifying the user is called authentication. Clear? Is it clear, guys? Authentication and authorization. Any questions here?
Please.
Next is principal and law, principal and securable. What is principal? What is securable? The same power room example. Okay, who is accessing the resources is called principal. Who is accessing? Who is accessing the resources is called principal. Which resources he is accessing? Which resources he is accessing is called securable. Okay, in the power room example, power room is principal or securable? In the shopping mall, power room is a principal or securable, guys?
Securable.
It's a resource, right? Power room is a resource. Which resources you are accessing? That is called securable. Who is accessing? Electrician is principal or securable? That electrician is a principal. Principal is accessing power room. Who is accessing? That person is called principal. Which resource is accessing? He is accessing power room. Power room is called securable. In the same way, if we gave access to any person on the SQL Server database, for example, we have Muni. Muni is a SQL DBA or SQL developer. I gave him access on some sales database. So can you tell me what is Muni and what is sales database? What is principal and what is securable here?
Money becomes principal, sir.
Okay.
And the database becomes securable.
Yes. Who is accessing? Muni is accessing. So Muni is a principal. Which resource he is accessing? He is accessing a database. Database is a securable. If he is accessing table, table is a securable. If he is accessing server, server is a securable. So depends upon the access management, depends upon the access level, the meaning of securable is changing, guys. So the same server can be principal. This principal is accessing databases. Databases are securable. The databases can be securable. Someone is going to access the database, connect to the database. So someone is called a principal, and the resource is called a securable. Again, no one will ask you what is principal and what is securable in the interview. Don't worry. Try to understand the things, but it's okay if you don't understand also, it's okay. Okay, principal means who is accessing, securable means which resource he is accessing. Okay, that is called the difference between principal and securable, guys. Chalo. So first of all, you have to know we have authentication, right? We have two types of authentication in SQL Server. We have two types of authentications in SQL Server. Okay, can anyone tell me what are those two types?
Windows and SQL.
Windows and mixed.
Very good. Okay, this mixed mode is called Windows plus SQL Server. Okay, Windows plus SQL. Generally, this mixed mode will call it as a SQL authentication. Okay. So we have two types of authentications. Where I can see connect to the SQL Server, there you can see authentication. There, if you click here, you can forget about all these things. These were introduced in the newer versions. These are related to the Azure also. Forget about all these things. Okay. Mainly you can see these two are Windows authentication, SQL Server authentication. What is the difference between Windows and SQL Server authentication? We'll discuss, guys. Let's go back to this diagrams. You open an existing diagram. So listen carefully, very important. Okay. Batch 48. Right, chalo. Okay, listen carefully now. Imagine this is your Windows server. Imagine this is your Windows server. Okay, this is your Windows server. In this Windows server, imagine we have SQL server. Imagine this is your SQL server. I'm sorry. Okay, this is my Windows machine. I am writing this. Okay, Windows machine. This is your SQL server. Okay, or else let's go with this one. This is your SQL server. Right, chalo. Okay. So first we'll discuss about Windows authentication, guys. So how you are going to log in, as discussed, how you are going to log in, guys. Earlier we discussed during remote connections, right? If you are doing work from office and all, imagine this one is complete office and all. If you are doing work from office, first what you will do, you'll open MSTSC in your laptop, right? What you will do, you will just type remote or MSTSC in your laptop. So you'll get this window. Okay, which window you will get? You will get this window, remote desktop window. You will get it. You will get a remote desktop window. Okay, let me minimize this. Right, you will get a remote desktop window. Where is that? Yeah, here. Remote desktop window. So now you will enter the server name. Okay, you will simply type the server name, to which server you want to connect. You will type the server name. Imagine the server name is 160.192.168.0.160. Where is that? 160. Let's go with this one. 120. Change it to 160. Right. Control A, Control C. Control B. Okay, so this is my server IP address, guys. So Windows authentication means from your laptop, first you will type MSTSC, then you will give this IP address, this server IP address, then you will give this server IP address in the MSTSC window like this, and then what you will do, you will simply identify, like you have to type your username and password, right? You will type your username and password. So once you type your username and password, what will happen? Once you type your username and password, what will happen? Here you have to type username. Imagine the username is Akhilesh. Okay, imagine username is Akhilesh. Akhilesh will get his own account once he got a job, so he will give his Akhilesh account. Imagine Akhilesh is selected for some what is that company? Google. Akhilesh is working for Google. Akhilesh will get an account like this, Google /Akhilesh, and Akhilesh will get separate password, Akhilesh at the rate 123, something like that. Okay, so he'll enter his own username and password, guys. Once he entered the username and password, then he will jump into the server. Okay, once he just entered that username and password, he will log into this Windows machine. He will be inside the Windows machine. Now this is Akhilesh. Okay, user. One minute. Imagine now this is Akhilesh. Okay, this is Akhilesh now. He jumped into the server by just giving his username and password. Okay, Akhilesh. Okay, right. Chalo, now he is in the server. So now he is going to connect to the SQL server, right? Once he is now, I am doing the same thing only, right? First I am connecting to the server, then I am opening the SQL server, SSMS. What I am doing, I am just connecting to the server. So when you choose Windows authentication, it is not asking username. Why it is not asking username? Then where is the security? This is the interview question. They will ask you how many types of authentication modes are there. Yes, two types, Windows and SQL Server authentication mode or mixed authentication mode. Okay, when you choose Windows authentication, it don't ask username and password, right? That means everyone can log into the SQL Server.
No, because
That
while logging into the Windows server, we are giving the password which only the person knows.
Very good.
sir,
Okay, so very good, guys. So here what's happening here, don't think it is not asking password, it is asking password, it is asking username, guys. See here, it already took this username, but why it is not asking password? Why? Because the same username and password you gave, the same username and password you gave while logging into the server. Administrator username and password you gave while logging into the server.
At the time of installation, you are using it.
Yes, at the time of installation, I added one account. You remember, guys? During installation, I asked you to click on add current user account. Then automatically an account will be created in the SQL server where I can see that account and the security under the logins administrator. As administrator account is there, that's why this person is able to connect to the SQL server. If I don't add this account during installation, then this person cannot connect to the SQL server. Someone has to give access to this person, then only can connect to the SQL server. So even though you are a company CEO, that doesn't, machine don't know, right? You are a CEO or a security guard, you don't know, right? Simply, boss, if you have gate pass, I'll allow you. If you don't have gate pass, I don't allow you. What is the gate pass? That gate pass is called login. If you are a member of this list, if CEO is a member of this list, it will allow CEO. CEO is not member of this list, only security guard is member of this list. It will first give priority to security guard. It will allow security guard only. Hey boss, I don't know, I cannot recognize you. Simple thing, guys, without having Gmail account, can I log into the Gmail? Very simple thing. Without having Gmail account, can I log into the Gmail? Not possible,
No.
right? The same way, this is Gmail account. This is the username, and while creating this username, we'll give one password, right? That password you have to enter. So that's why it is not asking to enter the password. That doesn't mean it is going to allow everyone. If Akhilesh is going to log into this machine, his username will be changed to computer name / Akhilesh. Is it created computer name / Akhilesh is there in this list? Is it there?
No.
No.
Any gate pass you can see for Akhilesh here? No. So even though Akhilesh is local administrator, still Akhilesh cannot connect to SQL server. Why? Because there is no gate pass for Akhilesh. If you choose SQL authentication, guys, is it clear everyone? Windows authentication. Why it is not asking username and password? Why? Because in the Windows level already you are a verified user. Why again I will do 2 times? Windows level already Akhilesh gave correct credential, correct username and correct password, so he is able to enter into the server. If Akhilesh is having access, then Akhilesh can connect to SQL server. If Akhilesh is not having access, he can just connect to Windows server but not SQL server. If Akhilesh account is created in the SQL server, guys, if Akhilesh account is created in the SQL server, then Akhilesh can connect to SQL server. If Akhilesh account is not created in the Windows server, SQL server, Akhilesh cannot connect to SQL server, guys. Very simple. Is it clear, everyone? Why it is not asking password for Windows authentication? Is it clear?
Sir, instead of administrator, while we creating the SQL server, if the Akhilesh is there, then it will automatically.
Happily, you can add. You can add during installation. You can add. You have to add Akhilesh name. Otherwise, if you don't add during installation, it's not mandatory that you have to add during installation only. You can create one Akhilesh account. Right click, new login, Akhilesh. I can create an account for Akhilesh. I can give access to him. That is our responsibility. Clear, everyone?
One second, repeat this one.
Where you are lagging? Tell me. What is the problem? If you're lagging, I cannot explain again. 15-minute session. If you are having any issue, just let me know.
Okay.
What is the problem exactly?
Okay.
You tell me, then I can explain you. Very simple thing again. Okay, very simple thing. If the username
But
is
understand little bit is the confusion.
yeah. When you start doing practicing and all, okay, it will be improved. Okay, so don't worry. Okay, slowly it will be improved. Okay, slow. If you are a member of this list, you can connect to the SQL server, guys. Okay, if you are a member of this logins list, you can connect to the SQL server. In this logins list, we have 2 types of logins. One is SQL Windows login, second one is SQL logins. If you use Windows login, it don't ask password. Why? Because if you choose Windows authentication, don't ask password. Why? Because already while connecting to the server, I gave administrator username and administrator password here in this screen. You remember, right? I gave administrator username and password. So successfully I am a verified user, and that too I have an access in the SQL server. That's why it is allowing me without giving any password. Very simple. Any questions here, please?
Sir,
Yes, yes.
if I have Akhilesh as user in Windows level authentication, but he is not present in logins, in that case also we cannot right, sir?
Yes, yes.
We can.
You should have account in SQL server. Okay, you should have account in SQL server. Imagine you have access to your laptop, but Akhilesh is having access to his laptop, but Akhilesh doesn't have Gmail account. Can he log into Gmail?
Yes, sir. Got it.
Cannot. Right? Clear? Guys, any
Is
questions here, please?
there any limitations for one server for so much this much of user IDs?
No, yeah. We have limitations means we can create 32,767 logins, guys.
One server.
For one server, you can create 32,767 logins. I told you, right, in the beginning. 32,767 logins, 32,767 users, 32,767 databases, 32,767 files, 32,767 file groups. Okay, so yes, 32,767 logins you can create.
Okay.
Fine, guys, is it clear? Windows authentication. So don't think if you are able to connect to the Windows machine that you are able to access SQL Server. No, you should be member of this list. Then only these people only can connect to SQL Server. So here first Akhilesh logged into the Windows machine. He has access to the SQL Server. His account is created in the SQL Server. Then Akhilesh can connect. If his account is not created in the SQL Server, he cannot connect to the SQL Server. That's it. Very simple. While connecting, how Akhilesh is connecting? How Akhilesh is going to connect? Akhilesh is a DBA. Then he should log into Windows machine and he has to connect. Akhilesh is a developer. Then what we will do, you know? We'll simply install SSMS in the Akhilesh laptop. Just SSMS. Here, just SSMS will be there. Listen carefully, okay? There is no confusion. Just listen carefully. Akhilesh will open SSMS in the laptop. Like this, Akhilesh will log into his laptop. Akhilesh will open SSMS in the laptop. Okay, so in his laptop, Akhilesh will open SSMS. Then he will provide the server name of this server name 192.168.0.160, and he will choose SQL Server Authentication. He will choose SQL Server Authentication. Okay, and why? Because he is not logged into the Windows machine directly. So here Windows authentication won't work. When you log into the Windows server directly, then only Windows authentication will work. If you don't log into the Windows machine directly, still Akhilesh can connect. This is how developers will connect in the organization. Will install SSMS in their laptops. They will open, once they log into their laptop, they will open SSMS. They will give the server name and they are able to connect. How? They have to choose. I'll tell you, Aizwas. I'll tell you. We can identify whether it is a SQL login or Windows login and all. I'll show you. Okay, so this is how we have to identify. I'll show you that one. Let it open. I'm just waiting for SSMS. I'm not sure why it is taking this much time. Guys, any questions here, please? Any questions? User, yes, first we have to add him to the Windows server and then we have to add him to SQL. Yeah. See, generally how it will be, generally we don't add in the organization, extra bit of security will be there, that is called Active Directory. Extra layer of security. We don't, why? Because imagine in my organization 1000 people are there. Can I create 1000 users in the same Windows machine? Okay, I can create. 1000 servers are there. This 1000 servers has to access 1000 machines. Can I create? Means each person we have to create one account, right? 1000 servers, 1000 machines means 10,000 accounts or 1 lakh accounts I have to create. How it is possible? We have an extra bit of security called Active Directory that will be discussed in the Active Directory sessions. Okay, so don't worry. As of now, if it is clear here in this section, then we can go in the Active Directory. Again, I'll explain how it will work. Yes. So simply Akhilesh will open SSMS here. Akhilesh will choose SQL Server Authentication here. Akhilesh will give his account name. Again, the process is same, guys. Akhilesh will give his account name and Akhilesh will give his password. Okay, Akhilesh at 123. Then if you click connect, he is able to connect. But concept is again same. Even though he's a Windows login or SQL login, he should be part of this logins list. So Akhilesh can log in two ways. One way, Akhilesh can directly connect to the Windows machine using RDP and he can open SSMS in that Windows server and he can choose Windows authentication. If you are connecting to the server directly, you can use Windows authentication. But for developers, we don't give direct server connection. For developers, we'll give SQL authentication. So they will open SSMS in their laptops. Only tool we will install, guys. We don't install SQL servers in their laptops. We will install only SSMS tool in their laptops. So Akhilesh will select SQL Server authentication as he is not directly connecting to the server. He is connecting remotely. Server is somewhere in some other data center, in the London data center, UK data center, US data center. But from India he is connecting. How? He will open SSMS and he will choose SQL Server authentication and he will give his password. Simple. If you log into the Windows machine and if you are trying to connect, that is Windows authentication. If you log into only SSMS, if you log into your laptop and you open only SSMS and you are connecting to the server that is there remotely, that is called your SQL authentication. For SQL authentication, again you have to provide username and password, guys. Clear?
Akhilesh, sorry.
Shanmugh.
Sorry. Yeah, Shanmugh. So I have a small doubt. When we do the restores, do we get all the logins also from the source to target?
No, we don't get it. That is a different part, but we don't get it. Generally, we don't get it. We have to fix it. That is a different method, different process and all.
You mean like we have to take the snap of before logins and again restore?
No, that is a different question. I'll tell you during restores, so database restores and all, okay?
Okay.
Hello, Mr. Shamu.
Yes, yes.
Joelia this side. Yeah, as you told that there should be a login ID and password. Can it be a different login ID for the Windows and SQL server? Two different mail IDs. Can we do with that?
Yeah, we can do that.
But there will be no interconnection between a Windows server and SQL server. Then we should keep
See,
a
that's
password
what
for
I'm
both.
saying. That's what I'm saying. This is one way, just one way of connecting to the server. There are two ways to connect to the server. One way, directly log into the Windows machine, use Windows authentication. Second way, just open SSMS in your laptop and just give username and password. Choose SQL Server authentication. Give username and password. That is another way of connecting. Okay, so here you are not installing any servers and all. But final
We are
answer,
just getting login.
yes,
We are
yes,
logging
that's
them,
it.
right?
The final outcome will be if Akhilesh is part of this list, even though that is Windows authentication or SQL authentication, then only Akhilesh can connect.
Okay, for logging in, we have to give a mail ID and our own password
Not
like
mail ID,
general.
not mail ID. In the organization, they will give separate account
That account will be created by
by
other
Windows
team.
team. By Windows team.
Okay, we are nowhere concerned with that.
No, don't worry about that accounts and all. That's what, once you go to organization, you have to wait for 1 week, 2 weeks, or
Until
1 month,
login
2
ID and
months
password.
also. Yes. What they will do, they will create an account for you and they will give access on the servers. For that, it will take time, right? So until then, you have to wait.
Okay.
So that account creation will be done by the Windows team. Yeah.
It means ready-made, we will get mail ID and password, and the usage is depend on us.
Yes. Any other questions? For SQL logins, we will only create. SQL logins, it's our responsibility. Windows logins, Windows team will create, guys. These logins we have to create. Windows team cannot create. They don't have access to connect to the SQL server. The list of logins we have to create. Those who need access. Okay. Once Windows team created, say for example, now Lakshmi got a job in one company, guys. Now Lakshmi got a job in one company. Okay. So now what we have to do, as a DBA, she got a job. Now Windows team will create an account for Lakshmi. Then based on that account, I'll create a SQL login for Lakshmi. If Windows team just created a Windows login, and if I didn't create a SQL login for Lakshmi, Lakshmi cannot log into SQL servers. So first Windows team activity is completed, then I have to create a login for Lakshmi.
Who will create a mail ID for SQL Server team manager or else
Again, why mail ID? I didn't get your question. Why mail ID? Forget about mail ID. It will create some extra
sorry,
confusion. User
login
account.
ID,
Very
user
good.
account.
Yes, user account. Yeah, that user account will be created by the Windows team. First, your account will be created by the Windows team. Once they created your account, then only I can give access to you. Otherwise, I cannot create access. I cannot give access to you.
Mhm.
Clear? How often ID and passwords changed by server team? Mohan Ras. Zaz Tamkeen. Okay. Windows server, SQL server with login ID and password with name in list. What is this Tamkeen? I didn't get your question.
Actually, the thing is that Windows Server. Actually, I wrote, am I correct or not? Windows Server, then we will move with the username and ID to the SQL Server with the login ID and password. And only these people can enter where means name is there in the list. Whose name is there in the list, then only those people can enter into the
Correct.
SQL Server.
Correct.
Right? And the
Correct.
SQL Server username and password will be made by the person or else by the team manager.
Not manager and all, just simple team members can manage, can create
Okay,
it.
their own personal or personally you can make.
No, I cannot create my own account. See, you cannot make yourself as a queen, or I
Windows?
cannot make myself as a king. Okay, someone has to made us. So in the same way, we cannot create our own accounts. Windows team first they will create, and
Yes.
then the respective teams will be there, right? They are going to give
Okay.
access on the
Other respective teams will be there.
Correct.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Then they'll give us a ready-made user ID and password.
That's it. Yes, that's correct. Once you are in the organization, after 1 week, they will give you a separate account ID and credentials. This is your user account. This is your password. Use these credentials to log into the server. Like that, you will get an email from the Windows team. Okay. Once your Windows account is created, then SQL Server team, SQL DBA team will give you access on the particular servers involved. Okay. Guys, is it clear? Any issues, any doubts between Windows authentication, SQL authentication?
Sorry, whether it is a Windows authentication or SQL authentication, he must be in user logins list, right?
Correct. It should be in the it should be part of logins list. Windows or SQL, it should be part of logins. Only difference, Windows means you will log into Windows machine and you will use Windows authentication. SQL authentication means you can log in from anywhere if you have SSMS, and you have to choose SQL authentication. That's it. No need to log into the machines. Guys, generally only Windows team and SQL team will be logged into the servers, guys, not developers and all. They don't have access. Okay, only Windows team to do Windows level activities, SQL team to do SQL level activities. They will connect to the servers. Sometimes network team, of course, they have to do some they have to enable some connections and all, right. Network team also, they are going to connect to the network team, storage team. They are also going to connect to the servers. Only simply maintenance team, Windows, SQL, network, storage. These are all maintenance people. Only maintenance people can connect to the server directly. Okay, remaining people, they will connect remotely using SSMS, guys. Developers and all. Any questions here, please? Any questions?
So being in DBA, we will get both Windows authentication as well as SQL credentials, right, sir?
See, generally we are Windows authentication. Okay, we'll get Windows authentication. We don't get SQL authentication. You cannot use again. Okay, once you connect it to the server, okay, again we don't use SQL authentication. We can directly use Windows authentication, and we can just click connect. Okay, for example, just now Tamkin asked a question. So Tamkin got a job. The account will be created for Tamkin. Here, server name / Tamkin account will be there. If server name / Tamkin account is created in the logins list, Tamkin can connect to the SQL server. But we will use only Windows authentication. We don't use SQL authentication. For SQL authentication, again, I have to create separate email ID and separate username and password. Okay, so don't think as a DB I can use both. No, you cannot use both. You can use only Windows authentication. Okay, in case, see, for same person I can create both accounts, guys. Don't confuse here. In the tomorrow session, I'm going to show you how to create Windows login, SQL login and all. For same person, you can create a Windows authentication also, you can create SQL authentication also. If two accounts are created for you, you can use both. If only one account is created, which is Windows authentication is created, then you can use only one authentication method. Okay. Any questions, guys? Clear? Any
Hi,
questions?
Shamuk. I ask you could you please mention how to distinguish the particular login as a SQL user? Windows, as it will be defined like Windows, something like that. So I would like to know in particular the SQL user. How can we know?
While creating that, you can came to know the difference between a Windows account and a SQL account. Now, if you see a machine name with account name, that is Windows account. If you see just a name, that is a SQL account. That's it. Very simple. But I don't have SQL. We have only one account, SA account as a SQL account. Tomorrow I'll create a Windows login. Tomorrow I'll create a SQL login. So you can easily identify the difference between a Windows login and SQL login. Okay.
Okay, got it.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay, I have a question. So, if you are able to log into the SQL account, can you still get on the database as well?
Again, good question. Tomorrow I'll explain. Don't think if you are able to connect to the SQL server that I can do whatever I want. No, not possible.
Okay.
That is not possible. Okay, so you are able to connect to SQL server. That's it. See, if you are able to connect to Gmail account, can you do whatever you want? Can you use 100 GB storage? You have some limitations, right? You can use only 15 GB storage. Like that, as your account is a free account in the Gmail, you will get only 15 GB free space, right? With that Google Cloud Storage and all, you will get only 15 GB. In the same way, if I am able to connect to the SQL server, means don't think I can connect to all the databases, I can do whatever I want. No, level of access is there. I can control you at each level. I can control you at a table level. I can control you at a database level. I can control you at each level. Clear?
Yeah.
Yeah. Any other questions, guys? I'm going to stop now. It's almost 9:30. Okay, so if you have any questions, just let me know. Otherwise, tomorrow morning I'll show you how to create Windows login, SQL login. Okay, and how to connect to the SQL servers using SQL authentication. Right? Everything I'll explain, guys. But don't worry, if you don't get it, don't worry. Tomorrow just listen 10-minute session for security. That is enough, more than enough. Okay, what as a DBA, what we will do in the security, I'll show you in the 10 minutes, just 10-minute session in tomorrow's session, guys. Okay. Chalo, any questions you can ask me, otherwise we are good to close the session for now.
Would you mind, Shamuk? I mean, I would like to ask you one more thing.
No
As
problem.
in the log, we will see NT authority system, NT services.
Yes. See,
Could you please explain? It will be more beneficial.
I'll tell you why. Because when you install SQL Server, I don't know how many of you recognize these accounts. When you install SQL servers, you have to choose service accounts. So that service accounts also will connect to SQL Server, right? For that also it will create by default logins. These are service accounts. When you install SQL servers, default service accounts will be there, right? For them, SQL created logins in the SQL server. That's why you'll get NT authentication, NT server, NT service, SQL server agent, telemetry, writer. These are certificate related logins.
Okay.
Yeah.
Related to this, I have another question. The thing is, this NT authority system, sometimes, it will go offline, like there will be like cross mark. Then we need to go and start these services, right? Why this happens? I mean,
generally, automatically it won't go offline. There is no concept of offline for logins. There is a concept of disable. Sometimes if the SC is disabled, okay, red mark you can see, right? So there is a chance that a login can be disabled. Generally, it won't happen automatically. If someone disabled, then only it will happen. So you have to track who did that. Generally, you can just click on enable and you can click OK, automatically account will be enabled.
Okay.
But by default or accidentally it won't go to disable state. Someone has to keep in disable state. If you see cross mark means that the logins will be in disable state.
Yes, of course.
Okay, if the logins are disabled, you cannot connect. Akhilesh, if I create an account for Akhilesh and if I disable that Akhilesh login, Akhilesh cannot connect.
Yeah.
Even though you might ask, sir, Akhilesh account is there, right? Why he cannot connect? Akhilesh account can be disabled. Someone disabled Akhilesh account, so he cannot connect.
And we can track, right? We can track.
We can track, no problem. Everything you can track, whatever you did in SQL Server, we can track it. But you have to enable extra authentications, you have to enable extra, you have to use extra features and all. So, but you can still track whatever applying on the server, we can track it, who applied on the, everything will be tracked.
Do we have like this kind of scenario we will be doing in the future? I mean,
No. That you have to explore your own.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, no problem. Okay. Chalo guys, that's it for now. If you have questions still, you can ask me. Otherwise, I'm good to close the session and we'll connect tomorrow at 7 a.m. IST and we'll discuss creating logins and all. Okay. But again, don't worry about this. If you are still in confused state, don't worry. Okay. Tomorrow in 10-minute session, you'll get clarity. Okay. Chalo, any questions? Right. I'm just disconnecting guys. Thank you all. Good night. Good day.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yes.